So, hello from Aalto Fablab. I am Chris, and today we are going to try to print with the LulzBot Mini printer. So, and we have a special setup at the Aalto Fablab, and Jasmine has prepared a 3D model for us. Yeah. So, and then in order to prepare the file for 3D printing, we need to slice it, and that we can do with the Cura Lulzbot edition software. So it's a fork of the original Ultimaker Cura, but there are some modifications that are better optimized for the LulzBot. Yeah, so first things is that you need to select the printer, like the version of the LulzBot that you are going to use. So in our case, it's going to be the LulzBot Mini 0.4. So 0.4 because the LulzBots that we have they have a 0.4 millimeter nozzle, and yeah, and then you can load your files. So then you go to File, Open Files, and you go to Desktop, Parametric Joint, like so.
Can we do one print at a time?
We can do, but then you have to export them separately. Yeah.
Oh.
So okay, so now we have a file that is not where these two parts are not connected. So I'm gonna clear this, and I'm gonna go to File, Open Files again. So this time I'm just gonna choose it. This one. Okay. So here we go. So what we would like to probably do, we would like to avoid supports. So yeah, but we could, in order to avoid them completely, so because like it's, so if you would print it from the other side, then you would not need it, need the supports. You won't need it. So and then here we actually in Cura you can do all kinds of modifications. So after, so if you want to tweak it, so let's say you print something and it shrinks, and then you want to try to scale it up in a proportional way, you can do it here. So you can specify % and all of that. And then in this case we need to rotate, so you can do that as well. But I mean, we can rotate it 180.
No, it's gonna, like, according to the instructions, that's going to fit the ball.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Ah, okay, so
They're like the midpoint has to be at the top, which is why it's down here.
okay, then it makes sense. Okay, then we can, then we'll probably make supports on the bottom. Okay, so, but just in case if you need to do something with the model, then you can use these tools on the left in order to do that. Then sometimes you might need also to multiply the selected model. So let's say that we want to create 2 copies of it. So it's going to create those and automatically also align those. But in this case, we just need 1 for testing. And it's usually also a better idea to print just 1 object to test your settings and to test the model, than print 10 of the same kind at the same time. So first of all, you don't know whether it's going to work if you're doing it the first time, and then second of all, it's going to take a lot of time, and the longer it takes, the more possibilities for it to fail. Yeah, and then here, yeah, we basically just need few settings, but I'm gonna leave this to all anyway. For material, yeah, select PLA, so it's pretty much any PLA setting is gonna work because PLA is PLA. And then we can select the profile, and I would recommend to go with standard, and it works really 90% of the cases. I haven't measured it really like in percent, but 90% in the cases, this is really what you need. And that's also gonna make it so that your print is going less likely going to fail. And for the quality settings, you can just leave the default settings here. You don't need to tweak them unless you really know what you are doing. So for the shell also, for the infill also 20% is fine. This, and what do we need? We'll close these just to make it look nicer. So what we need to think about in this case is support. So we open up this and we select it. We want to generate support. And yeah, these default settings, usually they're just fine. Yeah, unless also you notice that you want something specific, and then you can go over all these parameters individually to understand what they mean. So you can change the pattern from zigzag to something else. And then hit prepare. And it's gonna slice. And before saving it, we can go to layer view over here to check how it is going to print it. So we can zoom in here. Yeah, so it looks okay.
Well, it's going to support their account.
But yeah, the supports, they are anyway displayed as blue, so there's nothing that is being printed as support in there.
Oh,
so even if
the
we
yellow stuff is not.
yellow stuff is infill, so
Oh, okay. Then
that's the green stuff is probably like the I don't know, that's the yeah, the red is the outline, so the red is the wall, and then the green one is just maybe the first layer, like after the wall. Whoop. Moved it. Okay, let's prepare it one more time. So yeah, and then here you can go to any of the layers, and with this slider then you can see how each of these individual layers is going to be printed. Yeah. And then from here you would save to file, so select the save to file option and then click save to file, and let's create a new folder. And let's save it here. So it's gonna save it automatically with the LM04 prefix, so which is the LulzBot Mini 0.4. So it's gonna automatically generate a prefix from this title, just so you can, so you know which printer should be used for printing this file. And it's gonna save it as G code. Save. So there's a Raspberry Pi here, so which is serving a web interface. It's just kind of, this Raspberry Pi is in between your browser that we are, our browser that we are going to use to access the printer and the printer. So the printer is connected to the box with to the Raspberry Pi with a USB cable, and in order for the Raspberry Pi to access the printer, we need to switch the printer on, obviously. Now it's on, and so when it's on, we can open the browser, and yeah, usually you have these links here on in the bookmark bar, but so basically what you need to use is the 3D printers link, which is going to bring you to the fablab.aalto.fi/3D printers page, and this works only locally. So when the printers are not accessible, then these little circles are red, and you need to know the number of the printer. So in this case, it's the LulzBot Mini 4, And yes, and then you can click on it, and it's going to try to automatically log you in. If not, then try to use the presets over here, and if you don't know the password, or if it doesn't automatically fill in the password here at the lab, then ask someone around, they should know it. And then the first thing is to hit this connect button, which is going to connect the little Raspberry Pi box to the printer. And now, so we're using this web interface here to communicate with the Raspberry Pi, and then the Raspberry Pi is going to do the rest in order to communicate with the printer. Yeah, so here on the right side you see the temperature curves of the tool and the bed, and I wonder why is it not really showing anything, because it didn't manage to connect. But okay, I'm gonna try to hit connect one more time. So yeah, now it seems connected. And here you can actually manually set the temperature, and let's say you want to remove, you want to load a fresh filament roll. So before you can do it, you need to heat up the nozzle in order to remove it. And you can also just do it, because this is going to make your print to start faster if you heat the nozzle up beforehand. Then if you go to Control tab, then here you can use these functions in order to retract the material. So if you want to unload the material, then you would enter, let's say 150 here, you'd hit retract, and the motor connected to the nozzle is going to start to pull the filament out. So with this in mind, we can create a new folder here. We usually do it with the name of whoever is printing. And let's upload the file. So we saved it on desktop, so it has to be a G-code file. You open it up. And in order to start to print, we need to hit this little print icon over here. The printer is going to start to move. So first is going to start to heat up the nozzle to 140 degrees in order to clean it, to wipe it. So you see on the back side of the printer over here, there's this felt thing, and it's, yeah, you will see in a minute, what in a few seconds, what is it going to do with it. I think that it actually does two functions with this. First, it cleans the nozzle from any leftovers of plastic. So it's trying to figure out the transformation matrix that has to be applied on top of every line of G-code, so to level it out better. So now it's going to wait until it heats up to 200 degrees and start printing. So it's always a good idea to look at it until it finishes, so to make sure that it finishes the first layer. Because usually if the first layer is okay, then the rest of the print is also fine. And yeah, we can take a look also in the slicer time will it take to print. So the estimation is 18 minutes here. So usually I round it up, I would say, so it will take like 20 minutes to print. And then in Octoprint, it's also, it has its own estimation. Then so it's telling us that it's still stabilizing. It's gonna appear there in a minute. Let's see. So yeah, well, 20 minutes now. Oh. Okay, let's check it out. So, yeah, in order to remove it, you can just take it like this. But then the next thing is going to be how, so to remove the supports, and usually it should be just like you should be able just to snap them off like that. But if it doesn't come off so easily, then use like smaller pliers like these. And just see. Yeah. Okay. So here, that was easy. And then you probably want to see whether this is going to move or not, right? Yeah, and it does. Oh, that's nice. So yeah, the next challenge is to print this with another color. So I just wanted to still cover the filament changing process. But yeah, check it out. So yeah, so next thing is to cover the filament changing process. So here up you can see a filament roll. This one over here. So for this print we were using black filament, but let's go with something else, like green. We have white. Since you have a black one, maybe we can try one white one. So we have like a nice black and white situation going on there.
Which has it's like this but has a hole in the top. It's the other 3D model.
Okay, we can print that with white. So we're gonna use this one. It's the white filament. So in order to load it, we have to unload the other one first. Go to the web interface, and we need to heat up the nozzle to 200 degrees, which is the melting point of PLA, and hit this button over here. So now the target temperature is going to jump up to 200. No, so it did not. Here, like this. Why it does not work? It still says that it's printing, so it was cooling down actually. Yeah, so, and then the actual print finishes when the model is being pushed out, like presented to you or handed out as on a plate, like you just saw with this one. So, and then usually, yeah, the Octoprint, it's going to consider that your print is done. So these two buttons also are going to go off. So now we can set the temperature to 200. Okay, so you see this lighter red line here in the graph. It's going to jump up to the level of 200 degrees. And then the more so the line that is a bit more fat, it's gonna represent the actual temperature of the nozzle, and as you see, it's slowly rising. And the blue line, it is representing the temperature of the bed, and the lighter blue line is representing the target temperature, and the actual, like the fat blue line, is representing what is the actual temperature of the heated bed of the printer. So now you see it's really quickly raising. Okay, now it's good enough, and I can go to the control tab. And I'm going to retract the filament for like by 100 millimeters. And now I hit retract, and then let's put it here. Oh, no. See, this starts to spin and the filament starts to come out. You can help it with your hands a little bit. And then once it's out, snap the end, which is a bit molten, and remove the filament roll. Make sure that you fasten the end of the filament. You can insert the end of the filament in one of these holes over here and put it back in the bag. And to load, unpack the other filament. So this is milky white color. And then you have to insert it here in this hole. So in order to load, so there's this mechanism over here, and you see you can use this in order to loosen the so how the little gear, or there's a little gear that is pulling the filament inside, and you can release the pressure. So there's a little gear and a little wheel, and then the filament is going in between them. And in order to push it in, you can release this and then push it in. You can go 150 millimeters forward. You hit extrude. It's going to start to move. Going to start to pull the filament in. Yeah, so it's pulling in. And the next thing is that we have to wait until the filament is going to start to extrude. So you see here, white filament starts to come out of the nozzle, and then this was it. So this was 150 millimeters. And now we can start printing. Let's go back to Cura. And let's select the solid view, zoom out, delete this one, go to File, Open, parametric with a hole, hit Open. And we do not need to change any settings here, because this is all saved from the previous model. And we can hit Prepare. And we can check out the layer view to make sure that everything is fine here. Yep, it looks like. And then we can save it to File in Jasmine folder on the desktop. Yes. So now back to the browser, and here upload. Select the correct file. And hit print. Yeah, so now it's gonna print the white one.
Oh.
So it's with the hole, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
That sounds riskier.
That's usually the 3D printer test, so they have these warped vase structures. Mm-hmm. That's a good way how to test how precise the printer is. Mm-hmm. So, and then if layer shifting doesn't happen on the upper layers, then it's kind of fine. But sometimes if it's really thin and tall, then it starts to wiggle, like on the top part. Yeah. Because like the nozzle is also touching a little bit the top layer, right. And then it pulls it there and back, and it starts to shake. Yeah. That's not very good. So, should be ready in a minute. Great, here we go. So usually you would wait till the build plate cools down, but for objects this small you can just go in and just grab it. Yeah, it's come off quite nicely. Now I think like that there's this first move that just break it, and then moves. Oh, this one also works.
Nice. You can.
Okay, and that's it. And don't forget to switch off your printer.